emotional honesty, with stories about affairs and anxieties, milestones and mistakes, and successes that made India proud. Stories of heart-wrenching setbacks and how I survived the roller coaster journey by making, breaking, and remaking as a man. Stories I Must Tell is an emotional experience. I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy Stories I Must Tell, the emotional journey of an actor.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of my LinkedIn Live every week, I have the pleasure of hosting international authors, speakers, and global thought leaders. And today is no exception. Today, I have the great pleasure of hosting the one and only Kabir Bedi. Kabir is known worldwide. Kabir is known worldwide for his featuring in James Bond, the Octopussy movie, the Bold and Beautiful series, Bollywood blockbusters, Hollywood, TV, films, an actor for nearly 50 years, a speaker, and now a renowned author of the book Stories Must Tell. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Kabir Bedi. Welcome, Kabir.
Thank you, Gautam, for that wonderful introduction. I'm most grateful and touched that you gave me such a lovely introduction to everyone. It's a great feeling.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Congratulations on your new book. I have a copy here, Stories Must Tell. It's absolutely awesome. I'm really enjoying the read. So congratulations on that book.
Thank you, Gautam. Thank you. And I'm particularly gratified that you liked it, because when we write books, we want people to read them. And if they read them, we want them to appreciate them. So I'm glad you did both.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it, because you've really been vulnerable. You've been authentic. You've shared your extreme highs, but also your extreme lows, because as we look at yourself from the outside, we could see a great successful actor who's had a great career. But what goes on behind those scenes, to share that so vividly and clearly in your book, really has been really inspirational. So thank you and congratulations once again.
Thank you, Gautam. No, if I was going to write it, I wanted to write it in as authentically as I could. Either I didn't write my story, or I wrote and sugar-coated everything to tell the world what a great guy I am, do a lot of copy-paste interviews from magazines, all that sort of thing. That wasn't what I wanted to do. I had a story to tell, and I wanted to tell it as best as I could. And I struggled for a while with the form in which I should tell the story, or the way I should tell it. But once that was clear, it just went like a bullet. I just worked non-stop on it from 5 in the morning, made myself 2 cups of tea, got down to it, and worked long all day, and let everything else wait till the evening. All the emails, all the voice recordings, all the texts, all the responses to different requests, everything then was relegated to the evening, so I could do a huge chunk of writing in the day. And that's what got this book done in the pandemic. And I made the best use of that time writing my book.
Fantastic, fantastic. But what actually inspired you to write this book at this time in your life, Kabir?
Well, it was now or never. I mean, I'd wanted to write it for almost 10 years. And once I was clear how I wanted to say it, I knew I had a good story to tell, because I wanted to talk about my triumphs, but also my tragedies, my milestones, as well as my mistakes, and my remembrances, my regrets, all shades of me, everything from my bankruptcy to my son's suicide, all these things that hit me at various points in my life, despite having such enormous success. I said, I'm going to share this, because this is the essence of a good story, to have the thrills of a roller coaster, ups and downs of life, and how you surmount them, and how you rise from ruin to resurrect your life. That's the story that really is. And I did that, so I wanted to share it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, each one of us goes through several challenges. It reminds me of one of the great principles by an author by the name of Jack Canfield. And he said, E plus R equals O. We all go through various events in our lives. You've had certainly a lot of events in life, personally and professionally. But how did you respond to those events? You responded positively, and that resulted in the outcomes that you've had in your life. So really, that's absolutely fantastic to hear. One of the highs in your life was the Sandokan TV series, which just broke all, viewership records. Could you share some insights into that part of the journey?
Well, I'd come from Delhi, where I'd worked in radio, to Bombay with the intention of becoming a director. I then joined advertising. I worked in advertising with great gurus like Alec Padamsee and Justin Dacuna and Frank Simoes later in O&M. So Lintas and O&M, I worked and made ad films. And that led to my career in the theater because Alec was a great theater director. And because I was then known as an actor, when the Italians came to Mumbai to look for the role, this iconic role of this Asian pilot who fights the British, they asked around for actors. And I was already established as an actor. So my name came up, and I fortunately resembled the character of Sandokan. And I was asked by them to come to Rome at my expense to do an audition. And there was part of me that rebelled against that. I said, wait a minute, how can they make me pay for my own audition in Rome? I'm not some straggler, some newcomer. I'm an established actor out here. But I recognized the opportunity. And so I said, no, that's fine. I'll be there. And I went there. I got the role. I did all the tests, the writing, the romantic scenes, the action scenes, the makeup tests, everything. And the series went on to become the biggest series that had hit Europe ever. It broke every viewership records that lasted for decades. And the scenes on the streets were like a Beatlemania. It was just extraordinary to experience that, not just in Italy, but in Spain and other countries across Europe, and to feel that this boy from Delhi had become a big European star was a huge high. And it was something that made India proud. It made my parents proud. It made me feel a sense of great achievement. And I certainly celebrated that moment to the fullest. So Europe was a huge high for me, no doubt.
Fantastic,
and a thrilling experience.
Yeah, no, I can only just imagine. Is that one of the reasons I've also heard that Rome is your absolute favorite city in the world, Kabir?
I would say one of the favorite cities because I basically my favorite cities in the world, which is so my beat is Delhi, Mumbai, Rome, London, LA. These are the 5 cities that I relate to and I go to regularly. So that's my beat. A career on 3 continents.
Great. So coming from Europe to Hollywood, what was that journey like? Obviously Europe, you shared some insights now, and from Europe to Hollywood, could you share some insights and stories from that part of the journey?
Well, it was very interesting because at one level, everyone said, why don't you just stay on in Europe? There were 2 reasons I didn't. One was the obvious and one was not so obvious. The obvious one was that every actor in the world, at least in commercial cinema, wants to see if he can make it in Hollywood. And I thought, okay, Hollywood, here I come. I'm coming and let's see what we can do. The other reason was that the success of my series was so enormous that I was so identified with the role of Sandokan that many Italian directors said, we love you, but we can't cast you because you are the iconic Sandokan. We make commercial films, social films, comedies. We can't have Sandokan walking in. So I realized I needed to take some time away from Italy. So they saw me with different eyes. And they saw me in other films and then realized he's an actor, not just Sandokan. And that's what happened. So I pushed on to Hollywood. Hollywood was much harder because, firstly, I came from this enormous stardom in Europe to being a rank newcomer in a city that didn't give a damn what happened beyond the shores of America. And so Europe didn't matter to them. So I was auditioning for roles against newcomers, against actors that are recognized, big, great actors who audition for the same role. And sometimes the newcomer would get it. It depends what the director wanted. So that was a difficult process. I had a very early success in a film called Ashanti with Michael Caine. And then a few years later, I was picked to do the James Bond film, where I played the role of the Sikh villain who fights Roger Moore throughout the film.
I fondly remember that one a lot.
Being part of the Bond film is just a wonderful thing. It's a cult series. It's got, I mean, not more than cult. It's a mainstream series, longest running film series in history, and it's got millions, hundreds of millions of fans across the world. So your fan base grows exponentially. And then there were some difficult years in between, because in this profession, it's not the big things you do that sustain you economically. It's the continuous work. And if work dries up for periods of time, when you've already established a certain lifestyle as an actor, you've got alimonies to pay, you've got children to raise, send to colleges and universities, all that is a continuous and regular drain on your income. If the income becomes irregular, you could be in a lot of trouble. But then Hollywood gave me this huge success with The Bold and the Beautiful as well. I did over a dozen major series there. But The Bold and Beautiful, again, like the Bond film, had worldwide fans because it's shown in 143 countries around the world to an audience of hundreds of millions. So there again, your fan base ballooned. And I have to thank Hollywood for expanding my fan base beyond Europe to making it worldwide. And Bollywood was always there. They called me back from a film I was shooting with Tom Selleck in Hawaii called Magnum PI. And Rakesh Roshan called me and said, I've got a film for you. I said, what's the matter? Bollywood actors on strike? He said, no. In this film, the hero becomes a villain. So heroes aren't willing to do it. If I put a villain from the start, there'll be no surprise. You have this very neutral image. You can be a hero, you can be a villain, you can be anything. So will you do it for me? I said, I have to come from America. Anyway, he persuaded me. I came back. And of course, Rekha being in the film was a huge incentive for me. She was a national award winner. She'd become legendary from the time she did Umrao Jan. And it was absolutely fantastic working with her and Rakesh Roshan, who had called me. He was the producer and the director. And it became my biggest Bollywood hit. Then I stayed on, did a few more films. Then I went back. So all those things go on. So between Bollywood, Europe, and Hollywood, my career spanned these three continents with a variety of films, television, theater as well. And the theater as well was at major events like the Luminato Theatre Festival in Toronto, like the West End, where I performed in the Far Pavilions. So it's been in all three mediums: film, television, theater, and radio for that matter.
Excellent. Wow. Really speaks leaps and bounds of your experience that you've had across three continents, and obviously Hollywood, Bollywood, the Sandokan TV series. So quite a diverse experience you've had across continents as well. I guess that leads me to my next sort of question for you, Kabir, is you've had a transformational journey of sorts, because you've had extreme highs, as you've shared, a roller coaster journey of extreme highs and extreme lows. And our deepest learning comes from, the difficult times. So perhaps, could you share some insights into your journey from a transformation, how you have evolved in this journey from your perspective?
What I found is that you have to move on, never stagnate. You have to reinvent yourself. And the key to reinventing yourself is, if you reach a dead end, or you reach a point where it's hard to go higher or make things even better. Rather than try and rest on your laurels, don't get into this try again. This try again, I think, is a lovely phrase, but the fact is it wastes a lot of time. They say it's a sign of madness that you keep trying to do the same thing and expect a different result. There comes a there is such a thing as reaching the end of a branch, and at such times, it's time to move on because those crises that you face are your points of power. It's like we go down train tracks. You know, we are normally on autopilot, everything's going fine, but then suddenly comes a point where the tracks fork and you have choices and the engine is stalling and you wonder which way you should go. And even though it feels very uncomfortable at that point, because crises are always points of discomfort and pain, they are your points of power because you can change tracks. And that is very important. So I've always said reinvent yourself, find the next big leap to take. Um, Recognize the opportunity that's there because opportunity doesn't come with brass bands saying opportunity. These are things you pick up in the ethers, maybe a conversation overheard at a bus stop or a stranger saying something to you that opens your mind to that possibility. And also it's a question of overcoming your inner obstacles, your inner resistances to things, because those things often get in the way, your comfort zone, your habits. You don't want to leave a bunch of friends and change countries. So, to reinvent yourself, you have to go through a period of discomfort and you have to be brave. But that is what enabled me to go from Delhi to Mumbai, from Mumbai to Rome, Rome to LA, and in fact, then back to London, back to India. All these were um, stages in my life where I had to change what I did, or change the way I did things, and the atmosphere around me to to find a greater fulfillment at that time.
Fantastic, fantastic. It's great. I mean, you said keep moving. That's obviously one key takeaway as you shared. I mean, you kept moving from city, from country, from continent to continent, which is not easy because we get into our comfort zone and familiarity, be it friends,
Right.
family, the environment, etc. And to make those bold steps really needs that sort of commitment as well. So really appreciate you sharing that.
And it's not
Kabir,
a it's
go ahead.
not a, it's not a bed of roses either. There can be great discomfort, but at the end of it, there can be great pain, as I went through. But at the end of it, if you are stay true to yourself, if you stay true to where you'd like to go, where you'd like to lift yourself up to again, then there is a great sense of fulfillment that comes with it, and that's the payoff.
Excellent. No, thank you so much. Coming to the challenge which everyone's been experiencing over the last 18 months, something that people say cannot be compared to anything of the past. The last 18 months, especially in India, work from home due to COVID. What's the learning? What are your takeaways? What advice would you give to people who are tuning in to listen to this conversation today?
Fact is, the world has changed completely, and as Charles Darwin said, the species that survives is not the strongest or even the most intelligent. It's the species that learns to adapt. So, to survive as a species, to survive as a society, even to survive as an individual, you have to learn to adapt. And we have to adapt to the new reality. Strangely, a sense of loss has become the new normal. Everyone has lost somebody or something that is close and dear to them. And we share this. And we all somewhere hope that things will get back to normal. We know that there will never be a going back to the times that we once knew. When there's quantum shifts that happen in society, in the world, there's also a change of consciousness that accompanies that. What for? made us strong in the older world and look for what the opportunities are in the new world. Because every crisis throws up its opportunity, as we know. So, what are the opportunities that come out of this? That's what you've got to see. How can you reinvent yourself best to prosper most in the new world? And one thing is there: reinvent yourself, but remain true to yourself. These are two sides of the same coin. They may seem contradictory, changing and remaining true to yourself, but they're not. They're two sides of the same coin. So keep both in mind when adjusting to a new world in which you want to be the best you can be.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Kabir, for sharing your inspiration the last year and a half during these tough times. But what's next for Kabir? I mean, it's been 50 years in the last year, this journey that you've shared in your phenomenal book. What's next for Kabir is the big question.
Well, I just reinvented myself as an author as well. And I must say, what I saw, it just so happened that when the pandemic began, the first wave, that I had the time to think and I got the clarity to write. So I used this time of being locked down at home, or being shut away from the world, as the greatest opportunity to write. And this book has been born in the pandemic, released in the pandemic, and will be read in the pandemic, and I hope beyond too. So I feel deeply for those who have suffered or lost loved ones or lost their jobs. I mean, I think the unemployment caused by these lockdowns is as bad as the deaths that have happened. So I feel bad for all that. I really, really do. But for me, this has been a very productive time. And I've really put it to the best use possible, because that I knew that was the best use I could make of that time. So possibly what's next is more books. And certainly my identity is that of an actor. Projects as an actor will continue in India, in Europe, in America, on the stage, in television or film, wherever it happens. Acting will continue and my writing will continue.
Fantastic. It feels like this is just the beginning and the best is yet to come, Kabir.
That's my slogan. The best is yet to come. I end my book with those words.
Excellent, excellent. Looking forward to the next journey with you. So that's great. I've heard, the Kabir, that you're a foodie. You love your different cuisines, but breakfast is your favorite meal. As long as it has eggs.
3 fried eggs. Come rain, hail, or shine.
Great. It leads me to my next question. Although you and I know that breaking bread goes way beyond breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but what does breaking bread mean to Kabir Bedi? What does breaking bread mean to you?
Well, I figured out what breaking bread means to you once I read that. And I think you're right. The act of breaking bread together is an act of almost primeval communal sharing of food and companionship around a fire in the open. There is that sense of warmth and comfort and community when you do that. For me, my breaking bread moment was not a moment of a meal. It was an event that happened. When I was studying in Delhi, I was at St. Stephen's College, but my parents' circumstances were such that they didn't have the money to pay for my college. So I had to work my way through. My parents, another remarkable story, but we don't have time for that today, I don't think. But let me tell you the story of my breaking bread moment. I told All India Radio, I said, let me interview the Beatles, because the Beatles had come into town. And I was their craziest fan, and I thought this is the way to get to them. So after a lot of persuasion, they gave me the tape recorder. I went there in the Oberoi Intercontinental where they were staying. They were all the press calls looking for the Beatles, trying to find ways in. I found their manager, and I pressured him in a way that I've described in my book by saying this is a government order, sir. You must do it. There'll be terrible consequences of the Beatles. I'm their biggest fan. I don't want this to happen to them. And he persuaded me to. I persuaded him to give me the interview. He said, "I will do the interview." When I went to see him, he was unwell. So he walked me across the length of the floor to where the Beatles suite was and said, "Boys, give this guy an interview." And I was in with the Beatles.
Wow.
And that Beatles interview changed my life. Not only because I met my gods, the Beatles, who I adored, who represented everything, the 60s, the counterculture movement, the music, everything in it. They represented a whole new age. But more importantly, for me personally, the way All India Radio treated that broadcast, barely giving it any publicity. And then, horror of horrors, taping over that interview with some other program because they didn't have money for tapes. I said, I cannot and will not work with people like that. It was a turning point in my life. I'd grown up in Delhi. I love the city. I love the smell of monsoon on powdered earth, of rasgullas, of, driving down avenues. But I knew I had to make that change. And that was my breaking bread moment because it took me out of Delhi into Bombay, which led to advertising, theater, film, Bollywood, and from there to Europe and Hollywood. So that was the pivotal moment for me, my moment of breaking bread with the Beatles.
What a phenomenal journey, breaking bread with the Beatles. And I read that in your book, and that really was an exciting part of the journey, I think, at the very beginning of your career path. So that's been great.
I can only give you the broad brushstrokes of what happened in my life in this conversation. To know the heartbeat of it, the scenes within it, the traumas and confrontations that I faced, the triumphs that I experienced, to understand that emotionally, textually, to see it and smell it, you have to read the book. There's no other way. I can only tell you in general, tell my books about this. Everyone's got a story. I've written a book that many people have scored unputdownable. And I hope it gives people the experience that they want from a good book because I have a good story to tell.
I couldn't agree with you more. Here's my copy of Stories Must Tell. I recommend you get a copy of this book. It's available at all leading bookstores in India and on Amazon. So it's been an absolute pleasure. No, my pleasure. I'm really genuinely enjoying the book, halfway through reading it, and it just is gripping. I actually get a chance to visualize some of those experiences because you really do open up and share them so vividly in the book. So looking forward to completing the book and encourage everyone to get your own copy of the book.
Please keep reading it. It'll make your hair stand on end. It'll give you an emotional roller coaster ride, which is what my life has been.
Excellent. Fantastic. Kabir, it's been an absolute pleasure and privilege to spend this time with you. As I know, it is just an overview and some highlights of your journey. For the deeper journey, I'm sure those can get a copy of the book and enjoy reading the full journey. We do have some nice comments that are coming in from different parts. We've got people commenting from Berlin, Germany. Namaste from Berlin, Germany. Rajesh Naik says, Indian legend. Rakesh, great session. And Dr. Shambhavi, Sandokan was a character we all had a crush on. Great to hear from the man himself.
Thank you so much.
Bharat, I still remember watching Sandokan. So lots of great comments coming in.
Yeah,
a famous movie that everyone loved.
I went to Doordarshan. I said, I'm a big star in Europe. India must see Sandokan. They said, we don't have foreign exchange. We can't get this. I got it for them and I gave it to them free. And that's how India finally saw it 5 years later. So all the people that saw it here are because I wanted India to see it. I got it for Doordarshan. I gave it to them free to be shown here.
Absolutely. That's great. That's great. And here someone says, wow, Beatles was wonderful. And of course, the power of asking, which is definitely something that didn't stop you from asking despite the challenges with that scenario.
No,
That's
I was
great.
unifocused. I had to see the Beatles. I had to get in
You
there
were-
somehow, and I did. When will is combined with perseverance and intelligence, you get what you want.
Fantastic, fantastic. Great. It's been an absolute pleasure, Kabir. Thank you so much for this valuable conversation, and I look forward to completing the book and staying closely connected. I must say, on a personal note, I've really enjoyed, I've seen you at the Global Business Summit, I've seen you at IFA, and one of the things is you can close your eyes and hear your voice. It's so profound. You speak with such clarity, and I got to say that's one of the greatest assets. I'm sure you agree is something that really I really enjoy listening to you speak. That I've seen you on different platforms, and just wanted to acknowledge and appreciate your voice that you have.
Thank you, Gautam. Thank you so much. It's nice to be appreciated. And yes, I do enjoy doing a lot of commercials, documentaries, voiceovers. That I can take no credit for the quality of my voice. It's a gift from God, a gift from my parents, and I thank them for it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kabir. You have a wonderful evening, and God bless.
Thank you, Gautam. Enjoyed our chat.
Thank you.
Spread the word. It's bookstores are closed, but the book is still available online. And where the bookstores are open, I hope people go there too.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kabir.
All the best. Thank you, Gautam.
In my heartfelt autobiography, I bare my soul with emotional honesty, with stories about affairs and anxieties, milestones and mistakes, and successes that made India proud. Stories of heart-wrenching setbacks, and how I survived the roller coaster journey by making, breaking, and remaking as a man. Stories I Must Tell is an emotional experience. I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy Stories I Must Tell, the emotional journey of an actor.